Power time!
Ninja time!
What's up, everybody?
Couple of dorks still watching these Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies in our 30s, but we love them, so
Yeah,
that
who cares?
was terrible.
We were the right age at the time.
That's right. And we're at the right age to take an objective look back now. Look at me trying to make it all highbrow. Talking about four fucking turtles.
I heard Milos Forman's directing the next Turtle movie, so maybe we'll get some of that, high art turtle film we've been waiting for.
Turtles at the OK Corral.
Turtle Deus.
Welcome back, guys. This is our, fourth episode?
Yep.
Fourth episode?
It will be our fourth episode.
And this time we have a very special guest, Matt Ellison Esquire from Cinema Sluts.
Hi, thank you. Glad to join you guys from the Cinema Triforce podcast.
He'll bring some more highbrow and less bitter tone to the show.
I don't know, I might take some license here to be more bitter than I often am.
Oh, feel free. Look at that. We're getting the bitter out of the Cinema Sluts. I'm Jess.
I'm John. How are you doing, guys?
Yes, and I am Matt. Happy to talk to some of you for the first time. And maybe you can hear me talk a little more with my friend Chris.
In the future.
On the Cinema Triforce.
Feel free
Jess has
to.
joined us as well.
Yes, I've joined a couple times in bits and pieces.
Yeah, Jess's guy that just says that sucks.
Yeah, pretty much. They're like, look, we like this movie too much. Can you shit all over it?
I don't approve.
God, that even happened with Jurassic Park, which is ridiculous. You can listen to the Cinema Sluts podcast at
cinemasluts.podbean.com.
And if you look at the people we're following on Podbean, they'll be on there as well. All right, now the plugs are out of the way. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the franchise, because we didn't learn from Terminator that it was too much to cover.
The best part of this series is that it doesn't have a gigantic post-apocalyptic implication problem. It's just Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. How serious can it get?
It should be very serious. All right, manhole covers weigh a whole lot. Yeah, it's nice to get the levity that we get from the original films and the animated films that have come out, because they still maintain that fun level of levity that apparently we're not going to get from that Michael Bay one, which I'll say right now I haven't seen, so I can't comment on it.
I think John's the only one that's actually seen the whole thing. You took it for the team, yeah?
Yeah, I actually went to see the latest Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle film. I think the biggest problem I had with it, I didn't hate it like a lot of people had, but the biggest problem I had is it's one of those, like, it feels way too loud, and it's like, I kind of feel like not every single adventure requires New York to be blown up in half, or for just like, you know, Megatron to show up again, because that's pretty much what Shredder looks like in this film. And a lot of the humor was very sophomoric, and quite frankly, there were like little added, real attitudes that some of the characters had that fell a little bit foreign to what Ninja Turtles are all about. One thing that bothered me was that when you first meet Splinter, they actually, to reprimand the turtles, he hits them, and that kind of bothered me, because it's kind of like Splinter would never hit those kids. That's not the type of father figure that he is. He'll be somebody that mentors, and somebody that is a pacifist at heart. And like a lot, and besides that, some of the humor was a little bit crude, and even their appearance in the beginning of the film was kind of creepy, which goes against the sort of motif that are kind of like benign. And for me, the turtles always have to remain with some level of innocence in order to, like,
To really work.
Carry forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Raphael was cruel but rude.
Michelangelo is something of a party dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Give me a break, man.
That's a fact, Jack. I wonder if there'd be some purists to, like, Eastern approach and learning that kind of stuff that would actually take that on better. That the other presentations of the Turtles were too saccharine, that, like, actually that kind of instruction under the fist is more likely to happen in a Japanese environment in somebody teaching ninjutsu, but it really doesn't go with the rest of the teaching of Splinter. So it's not consistent with itself in the movie.
Yeah, I see Splinter as a mentor, and he's also a parental figure. But I think if he would bring any, or if he would inflict any physical harm onto the turtles, it'd be during training. I don't think he's the type of disciplinarian that would like hit his kid to teach him a lesson.
Yeah,
You know.
No, that's what I was getting at. It's like I'm not saying that there hasn't been some physical, involvement, but to take it as far as him presents himself as a parental guide for them, I think he would never really resort to that. And like I said, these are just little minor details. It's not like something that like necessarily like either makes or breaks the film. It's just not necessarily the quality of relationships that I grew up watching those characters relate to.
it doesn't necessarily
Um,
break the mold in favor of the viewer, where you think it's better because of it.
Right. Yeah, that element doesn't bring anything new to the table, or anything worth being new to bring to the table. That's different. You know what I mean?
yeah, I thought that the also like a lot. I did think, to be fair to the new film, it did have the spirit of the turtles as far as just the whole spilling silly and the fun motif. It kind of does have an element of that that keeps it from being awful.
Uh-huh.
But I also thought that a lot of the humor, like a lot, there was some of the jokes were definitely directed towards ages like you know like 5 through 9 or whatever. But then some of the humor was very highly there's a lot of sexual innuendo into it, and it kind of seems like what are you really directing this movie towards? Is it actually like an older an older youth audience or a younger audience? It quite doesn't quite find it is an awkward film
Do,
as far as its who its the target audience should be.
do you think it suffers from at least what turns me off about the Hobbit series, which is it's trying to be serious and they're then still trying to have these cartoony elements in the same movie?
Well, I think that's not without delving too much into Michael Bay's work, but it's kind of leads to like the type of sensibilities that he has, where he does do a lot of that
Dick and fart
almost
joke.
sophomoric, like frat humor that sometimes doesn't always work out well in all his projects, and I think that it kind of carries over. That sensibility carries over here, and it quite doesn't click.
Right.
Yeah, there was a joke on here that they did. I watched about the first half of it, and just to try and prep myself for it, and I felt like there was one joke that they really took forever to explain, but because they did that, it
Mhm.
actually wasn't funny.
Yeah, there was. Remember? Do you remember? There was a part at the end of the film where the two of the turtles are like survey going around the city, and they end up landing on this this Klein poster of a girl in a bra, and each turtle ends up on a breast, and they look at each other, they smile, and they keep going, and I kind of felt like pretty much your whole movie has been sort of like aimed towards a very young youth age. You know what I mean? Not even like a teenage age. This is like pretty much from 8 to 12 at best, at most. And also you're making kind of like a little joke that hints towards maybe like an older audience, and that's what I was trying to get at. It's like I think that some of the humor could have been it should have been more directed towards kids, or if you didn't go that way, try perhaps make a little bit more of slightly more a film with a little bit more depth, because one thing that doesn't get explored in these films, and once we get into the older ones, is the growing pains of actually being a teenager, and they've only really touched the surface on that in almost all of these films. Besides, adding the Michael Bay one as well.
Right.
Yeah, technically, it's not a Michael Bay film. He produced it. He didn't direct it. So it's kind of like the Wachowskis directing V for Vendetta. It's not
We for
exactly
Vendetta.
theirs, but you can feel the stamp on it.
Well, the director himself said, he had a
Yeah,
heavy
I think
hand
there's
in
this
it,
one,
and
Jonathan Lieberman.
that his fingerprints were all over it.
I can't remember who the director was. It wasn't somebody I'd heard of before.
I think it was
It was the guy who
Jonathan
directed Beverly Hills Chihuahua.
Jonathan Lieberman. Let me
Because
see.
that's who you want directing a
I
Turtles film. Dead silence.
There were some good things that came out of it. Like there was the comic intro in the beginning. It was kind of cool. But then they had Tony Shalhoub being the voice of Splinter, and he's saying elbows locked, which anybody who's taken any kind of martial arts, no, locking your elbows is the absolute worst thing you can do. Like with weapons or striking, like that's bad.
Are you saying that we should be fluid, like water, that can
Like
crash
water.
or flow?
You should bend like a reed in the wind, the slow blade. But there's still some intelligence in it. Like there's a moment where they say, "So wait, these guys are aliens?" And then Megan Fox looks back and says, "Aliens? No, that'd be stupid." So they refer to one of the earlier ideas of the script and kind of point out that, yeah, that was dumb. Sorry, we almost made that mistake. Here are these other mistakes instead.
Trading one set of mistakes for another.
Yeah, the director's Jonathan Liebersman. He did he's directed Battle Los Angeles in 2011, Wrath of the Titans in 2012. And so yeah, he's the guy who directed the film, but it does feel like a lot of it has Michael Bay's trademarks all over it for sure. But going back to what Matt was saying, that one of the cool things the movie does have is a lot of sort of like Easter eggs within the humor. Like they make it there's a part where they go, oh, it's only what you guys expected. There were gonna be a bunch of rabbits, and it was kind of like a hint towards
Yojimbo.
Yasaki Yojimbo.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was kind of cool. And like there were, if you just there's a lot of little cool hints like around the film that kind of like self refers to some of the bad ideas like Matt mentioned earlier, and also kind of like some inside jokes for fans of the franchise.
Yeah, they have the iconic building shot where they're jumping down, and you can see you're looking up at the buildings, the moon behind them, and they're all jumping down. It looks like the intro from the original cartoon, but also ended up on the arcade version of that. There was a tribute even to the first movie they made in 1990 with the cutting with the Leonardo cutting with the katanas and cutting up the pizza.
I can't hear you guys.
Splinter's head.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Understanding the good parts of the first one, now I'm even more bummed out that it's not better. Because that first one is really good.
The only other thing that what sucks about it is that it's juxtaposed against these other kind of brainless attempts in the writing that tend to go with these films. April has this really freaking long, oh my gosh, wait a second, I've known those names. They're her freaking pets in this story.
Oh, God.
There's no reason for her to take that long to come to that realization. And she's looking at this stuff and like...
Or to even make that connection.
If your dad is dead, you remember what he was working on before he freaking died. This isn't like a hard thing to summon in your memory. Oh yeah, the most significant moments in my life. Oh yeah, now I remember.
Okay, but Megan Fox. That's it. That's my argument.
She's not that bad in this movie, but she's doing what she's told to do through this kind of subpar script.
To be honest with you, I don't think there's any problems with the casting. I think Will Arnett does a great job as Vernon. I think he brings some of that humor without it being necessarily forced, like it's been in the past. Like like in the Transformers movies, how the parents are kind of like there for comic relief, but it feels really forced. It's poorly performed. I think he's a natural comedian, and it kind of helped with the levity of the film. And actually, I think Megan Fox was solid. She was credible as a reporter. She doesn't do anything to embarrass herself, and I don't think there's necessarily any issues with the performances in the film.
No, not at all. It's just her ever-present, like, guppy look in any of the action scenes.
Oh, I did say credible.
Slack-jawed Megan Fox.
So, all right, I think we've got a good feel for how the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie is, from the input of somebody who saw the first half and somebody who actually tortured himself by sitting and watching the entire thing. Since we started off with the latest one, let's roll backwards and go to 2009's Turtles Forever.
Do you have a scepter?
I'm actually, yes, I'm using a scepter that was made out of 2 pieces of wire, a toothpick, And
And a light bulb from like Home Depot, yeah.
yeah, and but the important part is that the wires are twisted into bunny ears.
MacGruber!
Oh
I was
man.
hoping for MacGyver, but I'll take what I can get.
So
So
we'll
Turtles
start with
Forever.
1990s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
No, let's go backwards. Fuck it. And we'll end maybe with the one that has to do with time travel, just to throw some weird joke in there. So, Turtles Forever, animated film that crosses over, and I don't want to spoil too much, but let's just say that it crosses over the 1980s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with the modern 2000 or
Three.
aughts 2003, yeah, cartoon show. I love this movie. This movie is super entertaining. It pokes fun at all the right things. I really get a
Mm.
kick out of it.
Today was the first time I saw it. I was really pleasantly surprised by it. It was great. I was upset I hadn't seen it before now.
Yeah, it took me until this year because John mentioned it to even know that it existed.
Thank you, John.
Yeah. No, it was actually what's interesting. It's in March. It's considered the last. It's considered the ending of the 1987 series and of the 2003 series, and it was
Oh,
produced by Nickelodeon. Um, and it's like I said, I kind of caught it like accidentally. I was just kind of browsing through. I didn't even know that movie existed, and then I thought it was actually one of the more clever turtle films to come out. I wish it would have gotten a larger theatrical release. I probably would have gone catch it in the theater.
yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, I think it's smart. I think it hits on all the right notes. The idea they go back to like the origins of the turtles, like with Turtles Prime, and it's actually kind of like the Eastman and Large vision of the characters was great. It was, I think that
And therein lies the
anybody that just
spoiler I was
loves
trying not
the
to. Sorry, continue.
nah, everybody that loves how do you call it, like just the story, like the history of those characters would just be pleasantly surprised how good that movie is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It really does. It does a good job of representing every what is it like three eras of turtles that they represented.
Yeah. And it's the most self-aware as
Yeah.
well. Even for as smart as the three movies are that we'll get back to, this one is just awesome because when the modern day turtles and their villains go back to the 80s turtles, they're looking at this world and they're like, it's so cartoonish.
Well, like Shredder's daughter says, she's like the Dimension X technology is ridiculous, and she uses the word ridiculous, which was fucking amazing. My other favorite recurring gag is the fact that the turtles from the '80s talk into the camera, and the villains or the other turtles always look in the same direction. Like, what the fuck is he doing? Who is he talking to?
Oh, well, he breaks the third
Breaks
wall.
the
That's
fourth wall.
great. The fourth wall. That's
Yeah,
awesome. Who
yeah.
are you talking to?
Yeah. Well, and I love that they saved acknowledging, like having somebody acknowledge it up until the end, where he's like, "Dude, what the fuck are you doing?"
What's going on with the Avengers film is exactly what this film does. Like, oh, dude, could you imagine what it'd be like if those turtles met the other turtles?
Uh-huh.
Because these ones are so badass.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Plus, it's fabulous because it wastes no time. It's probably 15, 20 minutes into the film by the time they encounter each other.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It moves along really at a nice clip. It doesn't feel too fast, but it feels just exactly right, pacing wise.
Because it's a cartoon, it's easier to forgive kind of the silly nature of it because it's born of kids' entertainment very specifically. It's not like the newer movie that can't quite make up its mind who its audience is.
Right.
But one of the jokes that it has in it, it's great. Like the supervillain walks away like, "We don't need these turtles; they're superfluous." So immediately, immediately one of the goons says, "See you later, superfluous."
That was pretty great. I don't know. I don't have much else to add except for people should go see this movie.
Yeah, the elements were just cool because
Yeah, I second that.
There you
John seconds that in case I cut him off.
go.
But like the new Shredder, they bring in all the elements, like they infuse elements of both cartoon series. With the newer Shredder, almost every time he shows up, they had this like no vocal thing going on. Yo,
Oh yeah.
it's really, really cool little flourish. The daughter is a badass,
Mhm.
unlike April, in the '80s, who could do nothing. was always the victim.
Yeah.
But that was something that came out of the later cartoon series and the other movie we'll get to. She actually had training and fought with Casey.
Well, but it's also acknowledged by the 1980s April when they get back. Remember, she says that when you guys are not around, my life is in danger a hell of a lot.
Did you guys ever
Well,
have...
it made the reference. That's what we do. Is like we just go and rescue April. That's what we do every day.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah. And they said that happens every day. That was great.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever have the sticker books?
No.
They used to have these books that came out with stickers. Like you had to buy the packets, and those packets would give you numbered stickers to go through this book. The book just had like blue and red framing, and then you would have the full color stickers that would go in those sections.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was really sort of an abstraction because it didn't look, even if you put all the stickers in there, it didn't look complete.
Mm-hmm.
But I almost wondered about that when they had this element in the story where the color's getting stripped out. And in doing that, it left it beyond just the black and white. Then it went to this blue framing, sort of the blue and red, like basic framing before somebody started tracing. And it also seemed to kind of call back to the sticker books, is what it reminded me of in the 80s. They did that with He-Man, Thundercats.
I wonder if that was intentional. I just saw it as the non-photo blue showing up.
Mm.
Yeah. One fun fact that we were researching, because the voice acting in Turtles Forever is really good, and the Turtles actually sound a lot like their 80s counterparts.
Yeah.
And
two out of the four consistently.
Yes.
And the other two were still pretty good.
Yeah.
Couldn't tell.
So I looked it up, and apparently 4Kids Entertainment, they're non-union, so they couldn't get any of the union actors that were on the original show, which I guess is all of them, back to do their voices again.
Yeah, I thought for a second that like James Avery was in this film.
Shredder?
Yeah.
Yeah, we had to look that up specifically.
The voice acting was superb. I mean, it sounded exactly to the original counterparts.
Yeah.
I couldn't really tell a difference until I actually saw some of the casting differences they had.
Yeah, it was exceptional. Every one of us had to look it up because we weren't sure. And that, to me, is a sign of quality. Well done voice work, that we weren't sure.
Indeed. All right, so since we're skipping time travel till the end, we got to come up with some good pun or something for that. So, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Secret of the Ooze.
Secreto de los Mocos Verdes.
Go ahead, John. You wanna discuss what your thoughts are on TMNT 2?
Oh, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle 2,
oh, no,
Secret
wait.
of the Ooze? Well,
we skipped one. TMNT.
Don't think it's... Considering how
hold on.
movie was rushed, and it had no Casey Jones, it had no Judith Hogue, and she got recasted by Paige Torko. It had no Corey Feldman doing the voice of Donatello. I think that it really ruined a lot of the continuity of the series there. But I think it ruined a lot of the continuity of the films, and I mean that's obviously like New Line is infamous for rushing sequels. And but I think they got a pretty good director in it, Michael Pressman, veteran director. He did a pretty respectable job considering how little timetable they had to actually make that film. I think that unfortunately, like Paige Torko doesn't have any of the spunk or some of that toughness that Judith Hogue brought in the first film. I think her April's pretty much generic. It could have been called any character, like it didn't really distinguish that character's strength at all. But it does have some pluses. I think the martial arts choreography is excellent, or actually not excellent, but it's a good action film, and
it's also good to note that movie was chastised by the Mothers of America that complain about the weapons usage in the first film. And they basically chastised the Turtles to use salami and shit to beat their opponents with.
Well, to be fair, for a movie that was chastised, it's actually, I would say the action's a lot heavier. It might be a little bit less, there's a little bit less weapons involved, but yeah, but that movie still has, I was like watching it yesterday, I was like, wow, like, I don't remember this movie being so action-packed, you know what I mean? So, I don't know, I think that, they didn't necessarily work to their advantages unless people are going to start like hurting other people with salamis. So.
I wonder if the timeline, like the amount of violence, because they one of the big complaints was, I think it's a 14-minute or a 20-minute fight that starts on the roof with Raph in the first one,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and the length of time and the weapons, and then you get into the second one. But I wonder if the cumulative fight time is actually longer in the second. That's an interesting idea. But I felt like it
I
was
will have to
recapped.
time it, but I wouldn't be surprised.
I remember being disappointed when they're fighting with food and all this stuff. Like they barely touched their weapons in the movie.
Yeah, it was too bad.
The exchange was Ernie Reyes Jr. He's so freaking good. Kino.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, Ernie Ray Jr. Yeah, he's well, he was in the. I think he was in the first movie, right? I think he was I think he was Donatello inside the suit. I'm not exactly sure. At least for the action sequences, he was.
I think that was a rumor. Ernie Reyes Jr. from after this movie, he spent a lot of time doing stunt work. He's actually one of the guys that beats up Indiana Jones in the Crystal Skull movie.
Oh really?
There are a couple different rumors that have persisted about these movies over the years. I remember hearing that Seth Green took over for Donatello as the voice, and you listen to it and it sounds like him, but it isn't.
Mhm.
It's this other guy, Adam Carl, unless it was a pseudonym, but I'm pretty sure it would have said it was Seth Green, and it isn't.
Yeah. I actually thought Seth Green did some of the voice work in Turtles Forever. I picked up I don't remember what character it was, but one of them had that distinct voice of his a couple times, not throughout. But anyways,
And one of the other actors you get in here is the almost Baxter Stockman character through David Warner. It's not really their intent, but it's totally what it made me think of.
yeah, I remember when I saw the second one. I don't think I was disappointed as a kid. It definitely wasn't as good as the original, but I think I enjoyed it enough that I didn't hate it. You know, I didn't feel. I'm reiterating that I was not disappointed. I should have cut myself off.
Well, I remember hearing the arguments about the violence, and I was pissed at the time. This isn't just things I'm finding out later. I remember being pissed. I'm like, they're ninjas. You're lucky there aren't arms flying all over the place in these movies.
No shit.
They're bred as assassins, you know, in the origins of ninja. So that this movie and the TV series and everything was as innocent as it was, they should have counted themselves lucky, but whatever.
So, another fun trivia fact: in the UK, they changed the name of the show, and it wasn't Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles; it was Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles, if I remember correctly.
Huh.
They took out the word ninja.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Well, no one wanted to be reminded of the ninja wars of the 1960s.
The UK Ninja Wars. There were so many lives lost.
See, no one wants to admit the real reason so many people have problems with France is because they have a secret ninja clan.
You know, one of the things that I found that was a little bit interesting was one of the jokes that there's a scene where the turtles get trapped in a net, and one of the turtles goes, "This net is really well made," and like Michelangelo says, he needs to give his thanks to Ralph Nader, and I thought it was kind of like, wow. That joke was definitely not directed to like the target audience here. I mean, maybe
right.
like and there was a lot of like little humor there. That's like, you definitely guys are. It almost felt like there was people like writers in their probably like 50s writing a movie for kids in their like teen, like in their 10s to teens. You know, what I mean, the 90s. So I think there's a little bit of some disparate generational humor there that as I get older, I can pick it up now that probably obviously didn't do back when I was like 12 when I went to see the film or something like that.
Right.
If anything, that's kind of the genius of these movies, though, is that there's stuff that persists. Much like Looney Tunes and stuff like that, there are those layers. There's a bit that has recycle dudes in the background where they're recycling down in the sewer. And I thought that was kind of fascinating. I never saw that growing up. But, now I see it.
Interesting. Yeah, so I guess the general consensus of TMNT 2 is that it's not as good as the first one. Could have been better.
But they were able to come up with some innovative things that they didn't just lay on the coattails of the first one. They had like backflip punishments throughout the movie.
Oh, yeah.
The new stuff that wasn't there before.
I think what happened, I think this movie's relatively respectable. Considering, like I said, considering how rushed it was, and just taking away a lot of the characters that people became comfortable with in the first film, And obviously not having Bebop and Rocksteady going with like Raza and Toka was kind of like a bit of an odd choice. I know there was some copyright issues there.
Is that what it was? Because I was trying to figure out why they didn't have Rocksteady and
I
Bebop, which
didn't
were
know.
good
Yeah.
characters.
There was supposed to be, but I think there was some copyright issues
Huh.
there, so they couldn't. They had to use those other two characters. But yeah, there was supposed to be originally Bebop and Rocksteady.
Well, but those two characters show up in Turtles Forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the movie. One thing that this movie does fall a little bit short on is there's this one scene where like David Warner tells the turtles the origin of the ooze, and Donatello's kind of seems very bothered by it because he realizes that his whole existence is just like this pile of like ooze that just fell into them, and all of a sudden they came up. There's nothing necessarily special about their origins, and I thought that was a good opportunity. And it seems like it just stays there. There's nothing that really follows through with that. And I would have liked to have seen that as a as an underpinning that should have been kind of developed at the end or delivered at the end. But I mean, for the most part, I think the movie holds its own. It's a fun kids film.
So far we haven't really talked about the actual anchor of this movie, Vanilla Ice,
Yes,
and the second-rate new addition
Mhm.
behind him.
he really does tie the movie together. Without him, it would have unraveled into a narrative mess that couldn't survive on its own.
He is the rug with no piss on it.
I don't know. I just think he brings the action because he's just so go ninja, go ninja, go.
You made it funny.
Kawabunga. So since I already fucked up the timeline here, do you guys want to talk about TMNT next? All right, so now we're jumping forward past the shitty third movie and into a great kind of surprise of a CGI adventure for TMNT.
I'm gonna totally screw up Jazz's editing now.
Feel free.
Did you guys happen to notice that nobody could make up their mind between the characters? Like whether it was Toka and Razar and Taka and Razar?
Yeah, I actually when I read it, I was like, I don't know which version I should say.
They should have just called him Frank Welker 1 and Frank Welker 2.
Yeah, it's true. He did voice him. That's right. Mama.
Mama. Make sure to feed him those ooze ice cubes. Okay, moving forward to the CGI version of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles film, TMNT. Which,
So we're going to TMNT 2007.
yeah, which gives us a much stronger April O'Neil who actually participates in fights instead of being almost a cause of fights.
Yeah.
Which was nice, and the exploration of a relationship between her and Casey Jones, which I don't think had been covered.
What is kind of interesting about? Oh, I was just saying something that's interesting about. I was reading on Wikipedia that April O'Neil's like the whole motif that she's a reporter was something that was added for the TV show. That she was originally like Baxter. Her origin story is that she's was Baxter Stockman's assistant, and then that's how she got involved with the turtles, and then she ended up having a relationship with Casey Jones, and then I think she also did, and I think in the comic book she's also got into the whole training part that she's actually a participant and a fighter. So I thought that was a nice touch from the anime from this 2007 version where she actually gets to not just be the damsel in distress, but she actually gets to be somebody that can save her own skin
Right.
Without the boys' help.
Right. Yeah, that was a nice touch. One of the things that I really liked about TMNT too was the personalities between them were very distinctive, and their body shapes
Yeah.
were slightly different from one another, so that each one could kind of stand out on their own. Like even if they had red bandanas, like in the comics, which they don't, I think they'd still stand out.
I can see that. A lot of people bitch about Patrick Stewart, and they say that he phoned in his voice record for his villain, but I thought he was great. To watch it again, my friend Jay was the reason I saw this probably 4 or 5 years ago for the first time, and we just watched it again after the original '90 film over at our house. We had people over, and that first film still feels so good.
Mm-hmm.
This one is really refreshing, and a lot of people missed it.
Mm-hmm.
This is also the only Turtles movie where an actual Asian plays Splinter. Mako, one of his
Yeah,
last
man.
things.
What a loss on that, huh? Like, it was awesome.
Yeah, Mako was cool, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
For those who don't really necessarily pay attention to particular actors or voice actors, especially, he was the voice of Aku in Samurai Jack.
The voice of Aku.
30 minutes for it's free? Excellent!
That's one that I hope they make a movie about. They make a movie someday out of Samurai Jack, but
Yes.
we shall
They need to
see.
close that story out.
That'd be very cool.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I thought was kind of interesting about this film, a lot of it seems that some of the remains that were developed by John Woo, because he was originally trying to develop a TMNT film, kind of creeped their way into this film, and that was kind of cool to see that that didn't completely go to waste. I also thought that going back to Jazz's point, that the strongest aspect of this film is the developing relationships between the turtles, especially between Raphael and Leonardo. It kind of has shades from the first film where that's kind of like the main conflict between them, and it seems it's cool that it finally got to a point where that gets resolved, and I thought that I think that sometimes what's got missing in some of these films, especially like in 2 or 3, is that you don't get to really see some of the how the dynamics of the relationships. They're just there like making jokes, and they go and do ninja stuff.
Well, and that's where the brilliance of the script is at the beginning,
Mhm.
where they separate Leonardo for a long period of time at the beginning of the film. So you get
Mhm.
that homecoming and that, reconnecting with your brothers type of thing.
Yeah, he's on hiatus, trying to
Training.
find himself and figure out how to become the leader he wants to be.
Yeah. So yeah, overall, I really like this film.
Probably the most intense out of all of them, consistently.
Intense emotionally, like between the characters.
Just that it's got a harder edge than most of the films do, I would say.
Yeah.
And the cartoon one, in that it's based on the cartoon series of the 80s
Mhm.
and 2000s, there's still a lighter part to it. This one is pretty rugged in the scheme of things, and it's also beautifully the way it's animated.
And the way it's lit. That scene on the rooftop when Leonardo and Raphael are fighting in the rain fucking looks amazing.
Yeah, yeah. And
That's-
Oh man, that was
water
awesome.
misting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks really great.
Well, I think that to Matt's point, I do think it's I guess the heavier of the films since the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies. The fact that it was interesting choice with the filmmaker that ended up getting this to direct that film. Kevin Monroe. He did a few years later. He would do Dylan Dog, which is the sort of like the comic book based on Cemetery Man, which is a pretty interesting film in its own right. And I probably had I like the pace of the film. I think it's it moves quickly, and I think that actually I'll cut that guys out. I ran out of it's just a pretty good film. I was gonna say something else about it, but I think I said everything I needed to say about it.
It's really strong, and I think it kind of slipped under after it came out. I don't know how much this was really promoted. I remember seeing stuff.
There was stuff. There were ads. I think it was very under advertised, and I don't remember if. I don't know if people were still affected by the shitty third live action one,
Hmm.
and they didn't want to go see this one. So I don't know if people still felt burned by the third one, that they didn't want to see another Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
It had
Because-
been long enough. It's weird if that was what kept people from it. I
Right.
don't know that they were interested in a CG movie. Maybe, I don't know.
Oh, potentially.
But I mean, it's not like Pixar didn't give people reasons to respect them as a legitimate medium.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a different style than that, but just the same for something that is fabricated entirely in that way.
Right.
Well, there had also been I'm sorry. Remember when we came out like in 2007? There had been a good almost like 14-year gap between the last film and this one. So I think and plus going to perhaps going to a different format might have necessarily captured as many people as it should have. I mean, it still did relatively well. I know it was number one in the box office the week it came out. I think it made like 25 million the first weekend. It ended up grossing like 50, around the 50s. So it wasn't, for a comeback film, it wasn't necessarily like, not, it did find an audience.
It didn't do horribly, but it should have had a bigger audience even then than it does. As far as like when you ask people about this movie, they're like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah, well, I remember I brought over my Blu-ray copies so that we can sucker your friends into watching it after watching the first one again.
And I think everybody liked it.
And everybody did like it, yeah. Which I think is the funny part because it was so ignored.
We put it together in the same night with the first film.
Yeah.
Which I guess was that our excuse to get over to that one, gentlemen.
Yeah. So all right, now I guess
1990.
we jump to the best and the worst. What do you want to start with? What do you think, John? Start with the best or attack 3?
Yeah, should we just step on 3 on the way to 1? We did start with the current Turtles, so maybe we should go out on the best Turtles.
Okay, I'm done with that. All right, so the next Turtles movie will be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3. I always thought it had a subtitle like Turtles in Time, but I didn't see it on IMDb.
Yeah.
I thought it was
I
Turtles
made
in
the
Time
same
too.
mistake, and I guess that was the video game.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay, so that's what
It just didn't attack them. I think it says, I think attack goes like lost in time, like with no food, no resources, and no pizza, something like that. I mean that's what the poster says. So
What they should have called it was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3: The Return of Corey Feldman.
The return of Corey Feldman, that guy's name where I can never
the
say
return of Elias Koteas.
Yes, Elias Koteas.
Yeah.
And the casting of a soap opera actor, I'm only assuming, as the villain.
It took me a while to recognize that dude, and I forgot to look him up, but he's the bad guy from Rapid Fire with Brandon Lee,
Holy crap, you're right.
except he's Italian, like horribly, stereotypically Italian.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I meant to look him up, but I was like, I don't really care about this guy's career.
Unless he shows up somewhere else, there's no point.
No. But yeah, this movie, I just watched it yesterday, and for the first time in completion, because when it came out on video, I found it so painful that I could never get past like the first 10 minutes.
I
And
never
now,
saw it more than once.
yeah, well, now that I watch it again, it's not as unbearable as I thought it was.
Yeah, I felt the same.
You can sit through it, but it's still not. I mean, if you have 90 minutes of your life you want to throw away, then go ahead.
John?
well, I definitely had 90 minutes last night, so No, but one of the things that's kind
give and
of
take of things that are changed, things that are brought back. There's the return of Elias Koteas with Casey Jones, the wasted in this movie.
Yeah.
Corey Feldman comes back as Donatello. They change Splinter. They change Raphael. They've got new suits with no real reason to change them, but whatever.
Right.
Paige Turco is back in this, but still kind of as ineffective. And like modern girl quirky with perfect hair, even coming in out of the sewer.
Oh, are you talking about the girl who played April?
The girl who played April, yeah.
So I watched it with my roommate, and I think it was very early in the film where they're going to save her. He's like, "Why would you save her? She's kind of an asshole." Because she is kind of an asshole in that movie. She has moments of it. So it's like, just leave her there.
this was like the Henson Creature Shop did not work on this film, and you can obviously tell like right there the lesser quality in the production. Yeah, they and I think it's like this movie actually has some pretty good talent. Besides Elias Koteas and Stuart Wilson, who was obviously like the villain in Lethal Weapon 3, and he's known for villainous roles. Well, he's a pretty good actor. Actually, he's not so bad as Walker in this film. I think he does bring an element of menace to that. It's not it's not cheesy or anything. That's actually pretty well delivered. And Vivian Wu.
Are you sure that's the same guy in Lethal Weapon 3?
Yeah, that was Walker.
I tip my hat to him then, because I didn't put that together, and I can't even place them next to each other and believe it now in my head. Huh.
Yeah, he's always involved with some sort of real estate scheme in some
He's the
way or
Lex
the other.
Luthor
So,
of film.
yeah, exactly. You got some shady real estateman. That's definitely Stuart Wilson's role back in the '90s. But
That's your guy.
and also Vivian Wu is in this film too. She was in The Last Emperor, and she did some Peter Greenaway films like Eight and a Half Women and The Pillow Book. Um,
Oh, the
and it's
Pillow Book.
unfortunate that some pretty good talent just doesn't get used as well as they should have.
Well, that script is really weak.
Yeah, weak's a nice word for it.
I don't, and the thing is, yeah, I think the script is really weak. And if you have Elias Koteas back, and you have, I mean, Corey Feldman, which I don't care.
But he's one of the best parts of the movie.
He's a good Donatello,
No,
but that guy.
But he's a good Donatello, man.
But if you have these people back, and you're working what I'm assuming is on a limited budget, why the hell would you make this a period piece? Like at this point, you can go back to make something like the first one, and instead they go through this time travel crap, and now you have all these costumes. And I know that some of it was covering up so that they don't have to animate the mouths in every shot, because there's even the whole opening of that movie. Their mouths are covered the entire time. Not for the turtles, but for the Japanese flashback.
I'm sorry, that was fun.
This is still the weakest of the three, easily.
Yes.
There's still some choice jokes in it. Like, Kurt Russell, eat your heart out. And there's one part where, like, Donatello, I think, just fell. She's like, "Oh my god, do you want some water?" My butt. I just want my butt to be the answer to any random question somebody asks me.
You were expecting maybe the Addams Family?
Oh yeah.
There's one part that I think I went back and watched 2 or 3 times when it was partly because I missed a line, but the whole procession when they come up to fight these ninjas, I guess they're not ninjas. I don't know. But they're coming up the steps, and the bad guys show up, and they're like, "Hi, party for 4, get a table for 4." And they just beat the crap out of everybody, like, under tea. And then once everybody's knocked out, they just go into the next room. They're like, we'll seat ourselves. Never mind.
I didn't catch that, actually, I don't think.
I think one of the things that's also odd about this film that it's not only the weakest script, but it's the one that chooses to kind of tap into some of like that teenage angst. This is the film in which Michelangelo, deals with first love, and Raphael deals with sort of like maturity and dealing with his own anger issues as far as like being a mentor to the little kid. I thought that it was kind of once again it's unfortunate that the weakest film is the one that actually kind of like tries to delve into that some.
The thing is, it tries. It doesn't actually do it, because I thought they were going to go the heavy-handed route. Oh, this kid has temper issues, and then Raphael's going to realize, based on some mistake the kid makes, that maybe you should control your temper. And there's none of that. He basically tells the kid to chill the fuck out in one scene.
You want to go fly a kite, kid?
There you go. Go fly a kite. Don't be so pissed off. Yeah, I thought they should have actually... that if they were going to approach that, it should have had meaning, Not just, oh, hey, look, here's a kid that's angry, and if I tell him to go fly a kite, literally, he chills out.
Yeah, it felt like everything that they tried just didn't get off the ground.
Yeah.
They have this doppelganger in the past of Casey Jones, but nothing really happened. I mean, things... I don't care if we spoil this. Like, he's a traitor.
No.
It doesn't matter, but he doesn't actually do anything. He doesn't come to any realizations. Like, very little happens with his character. I don't know. I don't even remember how it ends, except it was disappointing.
Do the Turtles even acknowledge the fact that he looks like Casey Jones? I don't think they do.
I don't think they do.
I think April O'Neil gets a look once, but that's it.
I think only April's the one that acknowledges it.
That's how fucking
other
stupid
than that,
that idea was.
I don't think there's any reference to him like looking like Casey or whatever the case may be with that character. I mean, I think that like we said earlier, it's a wasted opportunity of bringing such a pretty good actor in a very likable role and not doing anything with him.
Yeah.
And what's funny enough, actually, Elias Koteas, with the little he's given, he's actually pretty. He does gives a not compelling performance, but A sustainable one
Well,
considering how.
he's the best actor in that film, and I'm not saying that he's in a
Yeah,
shitty film
I
and
would
he's
say
just that
so.
much better. I think he's a good actor. One of my comments when we started watching the movie was, I think Koteas is too talented to be in this movie. To which my roommate retorts, "You what is it? You can never be too talented for a paycheck."
Well, it might be the funny thing. It might be like the role that people will remind him the most in his career.
Yeah, and how sad is that? That's kind of the Gomez Adams of Elias Cortez.
That sucks. Yeah, I mean,
Like
it's a great character,
I mean, he's
but
done
it
some pretty
also,
good
yeah.
work in Canada with.
No, go ahead.
I mean, he did some pretty good work in Canada with Adam McGowan, with Exotica, and The
Oh yeah.
Fixer. And even recently, I remember Matt telling Jazz that David Fincher mentioned Elias Cortez as one of his favorite actors. He was in Zodiac, and he had that sort of like small role in Benjamin Button. So he's an actor that is people know his talent, but I don't know, maybe for some reason he never quite blew up as he should have. I mean,
Yeah, which is unfortunate.
Yeah,
yeah,
he
I
just needs
mean
to be
maybe he
given more to
was,
do.
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
but yeah, part three is
So
pretty terrible.
yeah, that's what I was going to say. The general consensus here amongst us is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 is pretty fucking bad.
Not even Technotronic producing yet another song for its soundtrack can save this movie.
Or their use of, what is it, Jungle Boy? Anyways, alright, on to the best of the series, at least in my opinion,
Oh, yeah.
is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from 1990. I should have written down his name, but it's actually directed by the guy who directed the Take On Me video for AHA.
Wayne
Steve
Isham?
Barron.
Oh.
We've all got different names.
Steve Barron.
Yeah, you're
Christopher Walken? What? It's a Turtles movie.
right. Leroy Jenkins. I think he was one of the directors.
There you go. But yeah, I thought he doesn't seem to make much more than documentaries and stuff like that. So this was a big departure for him. Yeah. No, I mean he's got a few feature films, but it's mostly just Madonna documentaries and
Yeah,
Prince
almost any of these
documentaries.
directors, this movie, like each of the movies they directed, it's their standout movie.
Interesting how that works, huh?
Yeah.
He directed. He ended up directing a few. He did the Coneheads, and he also did the Merlin TV series.
Not something you'd really announce to everybody in the room.
Yeah, I've always
Yes.
wanted to reach out to him to see if he'd be willing to do just a commentary for TMNT that, or not TMNT, but Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, that we can just kind of sync ourselves with the DVD, because I feel it's unfortunate we don't have a commentary for that, because it sounds like there's stories that can be told about what happened behind the scenes. Like I know there was one day I think the turtles were in a scene that they weren't talking or they weren't supposed to be talking, and the mouths kept twitching and opening and closing, and they couldn't tell why, and it was because of the frequency of the radio signal to control the motors was being interfered with, like the airport or something like that.
Planes were crashing, but the turtles went on.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of cool stories to hear about that, because I know like Jim Henson didn't want to do the movie because of the violence, and eventually he kind of changed. He had a change of heart and said, "Okay, I'll do it."
I'm really glad he did, because that was the best aspect of each of these movies, is that the suits looked awesome. The fighting in them is exceptional.
Yes.
Like, a lot of these moves are hard. Well, these moves are hard to execute in general,
Mm-hmm.
let alone in this kind of suit.
Well, and the thing with the first movie too that I think they did really well technically. I don't think I saw the eye holes for the actors that entire movie.
Nope.
And in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, you see it in every shot.
I think it's stunning how well that movie holds up with its animatronics.
Yes.
And its costumes. I mean, it's actually, it's still feels it still feels pretty real. You know what I mean? It's a very high quality production by Jim Henson's Creature Shop.
Yes.
For sure. One thing I also kind of liked about this film, I like how surprisingly dark and gritty it is for a kids movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it feels like Vigilante New York. It feels like that sort of parody that was envisioned by Eastman and Lard, and it was you know it was shot by this DP called John Feener. He ended up doing the Borrowers in 1997, the Borrowers, and he did
Borrowers.
two Muppet films, the Borrowers, yeah, the John Goodman movie, and I thought it was, to be honest with you, the cinematography in that film is very good. You know what I mean? There's
Don't,
really good use of shadow.
don't you mean King Ralph?
Um, I'm sorry.
Don't you mean King Ralph? That's a
Oh
different
no, the
John Goodman
Borrowers.
film.
Oh, yeah. It was. Yeah, I never seen King Ralph actually. I heard it's some. I heard it's kind of good. I never seen. I know Peter O'Toole's in it.
Peter O'Toole.
Yeah.
No bodies, no graves.
Yeah, it's not that
Peter
good.
O'Toole will always keep my interest, man, even if the movie's bad. So, anyways, I digress.
Sorry.
And
I
another
totally
cool
headed
thing
you
about
talking about the style of this movie. It's beautiful.
The style.
yeah, exactly.
I think one of the things that we need to talk about too about this movie is the use of humor is not only perfect in this film, but it still holds up.
Yeah.
Is that a
I think-
Hoseki Seiko bat?
Well, maybe
Tell me
that
you
reference
didn't pay
doesn't.
money for this.
That's right.
That was actually
It's
one of
a
the
lot
moments I was
like
gonna refer
moonlighting.
to, that we were talking about the sense of humor or the appealing to different audiences. That moment, like when you're a kid and you'd be like, you got to know what a crumpet is to be able to play cricket. You don't know what the hell he's talking about. He's just beating the crap out of this guy and talking in between shots. But as you get older, like, oh, cricket, crumpet, okay, that's funnier than it already was.
Uh-huh. It's got a much more universal sense of humor. I think it works for kids and it also works for adults.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even like the relationship problems between April O'Neil and Casey Jones are handled cartoony, but I think that feeds into the response that they get from the Turtles, which just makes it like it doesn't make it ridiculous. It just makes it funny.
Yeah.
You know.
It all works.
Yeah, I like this movie a lot. I think the work done in the suits is just unbelievable. The fact that these people, the fact that there wasn't insurance lawsuits from the injuries in this film is very,
I think New and they had the money to pay if that was the case.
especially after the movie came out.
Plus, this isn't a slacker company producing it, although I don't know how much money they had by 1990. But this is actually produced by Golden Harvest and Raymond Chow, that did all the infamous Bruce Lee movies. And the reason, really, he was able to come to the West. So the reason why I think it's so pivotal in presenting martial arts, and probably through a lot of the extras and action people in there doing the stuff, is it comes through Raymond Chow. And that's why I think all three movies have a constancy. Even if the scripts aren't exactly the same, the dynamics don't exactly work, the look of the films, the music that comes through, that is actually pretty constant. Dun, 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 dun.
That's such an '80s sounding score, but it still works.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a real kick out of that movie when I saw it in the theater. The only annoyance that I had was the same annoyance I had with TMNT, which was there was a kid sitting right next to me, and Jesus Christ, he had to name every character that would pop out on the scene. He's like, "Oh look, it's Leo! Oh look, it's Raph!"
Did he repeat the lines back?
He didn't repeat the lines back, but it was like it wasn't just like, okay, Raph appeared for the first time. Oh hey, it's Raph. No, it's like when Raph popped up again. Oh hey, it's Raph. And it's like, oh god, dude, kid, I get it. The other issue that I had, not issue, the experience that I had when I saw TMNT with John. Do you remember that lady that was sitting behind us?
She came back to me once I saw it this afternoon.
Really?
When Mikey had the helmet.
God,
Oh, he's so cute. That was the whole movie, by the way.
No, it was every time. She had a thing for Michelangelo. And this lady was maybe in her early 30s.
50s. She was probably like her 40s.
Oh, you thought she was in her 40s? There you go, even worse. And then every time
Maybe like early
Michelangelo
40s.
had a joke, I would hear on, "Oh, Mikey!"
Wise men say forgiveness is divine, but never pay full price for late pizza. I actually went and saw this in the theater as well. I remember it was one of my best friends, Ben. It was his 13th birthday, and we all went to go see it. This is one of the few
Mhm.
times I remember in my life from Star Wars movies, the Indiana Jones movies, and then going to see this. This had such notoriety
Oh yeah.
going from what, 87 up until 1990, 3 years of the cartoon series, the comic series leading further back than that. By the time this film was ready to roll, people were so excited to go see it. There was actually a line to buy tickets that went around one corner, and then the other corner was for the people that already had their tickets and were waiting to get in.
Holy crap.
It was huge.
I know that theater was packed because I remember people being seated in the row, like in the hall, or not the hallway, but
Mhm.
just the rows.
I think there were five of us or something like that, and we had to sit in the very back row to be next to each other because that was the only spot left.
Uh,
And we got stuck next to the kid that was like,
Actually, what my memory of the film is, I saw it like about I was living in Puerto Rico at the time, and then I came for I came for my summer vacation down here in Miami. The movie had already been playing for like almost 2 months. So when I actually got to see it, it was pretty empty. The cool fact was that I went to with my sister Angie to see it, and she was like in her 20s when I was a kid. And now we actually caught the last Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie together, and so it's almost like a cool little, like from 1990 to like a 24-year gap between catching one Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle and catching the second one. So I think that's the one cool thing that I remember about the two films.
yeah, yeah, that is a cool little joiner that you were able to see those. I would, if I could get my best friend Ben up here to see that, we would maybe go see the movie together. Even then,
I think if the guy, his name was Reniel, that I saw it with, if he was up here, we'd go see something else.
we just look at the poster and then watch something else.
Go, remember when we saw that one movie? Yeah, okay, let's watch something else.
The guy who played Shredder in this, I don't know him from anything else. The more infamous actor is the dude that plays like his assistant.
Yeah.
Who needs a
Mhm.
little primatine mist.
Oh, the anger issues. That
But he
has
was
to.
great. He had such a deep voice
Yeah,
and really, really good command of English, although you could tell he wasn't strictly speaking American, but he may have been American born.
right. Yeah, he got a lot of work back in the 90s.
These turtles.
Turtles. I made the funny. God damn.
It was nice that this movie was able to approach it with a serious flavor, yet they were able to get these jokes off. They were able to have like April fainting, or every time somebody saw Splinter, they fainted. Like they were fine with the turtles, but then once the rat started talking, then they faint.
Well, and this also has. Oh man, I'm gonna forget his name. The guy from Moon.
Oh yeah, young Sam Rockwell.
Yes, Sam Rockwell's in this.
Yeah, Tyrell was the lead fug.
Yep. Does he have any quotable
Um,
lines? I don't even think he has quotable lines.
No, regular or mental.
Oh yeah, there you go. God, there's a line.
But that aspect, that brings up another part of why this movie is smarter than the rest of them. Because we were talking about how the third one, with the kid, Raphael's trying to work stuff out. Here you've got Raphael fighting with Leonardo about being the leader. You've got him going off by himself. And the reason he gets caught is because he's by himself. So they're fighting with that, and they're afraid Raph's going to die. So that gets really serious.
Oh yeah.
They're trying to train with each other to make sure they're ready to face off against Shredder. But then there's the huge aspect of the gang and of the Foot, that these kids from the streets, like, we are your family now.
Yeah.
I am your father. That is actually really deep, this notion of the way that somebody is brought into a gang
Oh yeah.
by the appeal of acceptance and getting you what you want. It's it's really it's really unique, I think, in the way it presents that, especially with a kids movie.
mhm.
I think it's probably because it was done in 1990 that it got away with some things that you might not be able to get away with in regards to that now,
Yeah,
or would be frowned
that's true.
upon.
What Matt's saying, like it remind me a little bit like when they make when they do investigations how some like neo-Nazi gangs work. Like they actually start influencing the teenagers with like punk music and like with other sorts of you know factors that can allude them to the particular gang. And I thought that was kind of like something that was a little bit like it was a little bit edgy for a film that like once again the target audience was like probably like pre-teenagers.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, the movie manages to be, I think, as dark as it needs to be,
Yeah.
and still have the levity it needs. It gets the best out of the graphic novel and the best out of the cartoon, and merges them really well.
Yeah, it's a brilliant fusion that I don't think they were able to pull off again. But I'm glad they made the sequels.
Yeah, I'm glad I got the sequel.
Even if they pulled it to 3, I'm glad it persisted.
Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
The one I really wish got another sequel was the CGI one.
Yeah.
I really would have liked to have seen at least one more movie by that team because they had a good
Mhm.
understanding of the turtles.
Every time you get to see the turtles on screen, even if the movie ends up being a disappointment, it's still, at least for me, it's still the turtles, man. I mean, I love these characters. I mean, one of my favorite toy collections, one of my favorite cartoon series. Even to this day, I think they're awesome. You know
Oh
what I
yeah,
mean?
those
Like,
toys were amazing. I still have
oh
them.
man, they are. I still got several
I
of
still
them.
have mine too.
But I remember,
What a
like,
bunch
as
of
a kid, that
nerds.
was it was actually the one toy collection that I actually bought on my own. So that's how much I really liked it. It was like I actually wanted to have more, and I actually wanted to collect them and
That
follow
that
that those characters.
when the cartoon took off, I wasn't really that into it, and when it got nearer to Christmas, I started to really like the turtles, and my mom just assumed that I liked the turtles, so she went out, she got me like
Uh
the
huh.
entire set, and I remember afterwards, she told me that some kid had the last Splinter, and I don't know what she did, but it was something like she told the kid, "Hey, your mom's calling you," and she snatched it out of his hand.
Oh,
Really?
Yeah, yeah, something
That
like
was a
that. I
pretty
gotta.
ninja move right there.
I'm telling you, I gotta get the full story on that. And yeah, she disappeared.
Yeah.
The kid freaked out, and he's like, "Fuck! I met the foot."
big
The
smoke
puff of
bug.
smoke came up, right?
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, that was always a story I got a kick out of when she told me.
I'm pretty sure my toys, because I think the Shredder toy actually, like his blades on his shoulders and stuff were blue.
I think so. Yeah.
Yes.
So
And he was also shirtless.
I painted mine silver,
Oh, really?
and all like my swords, the orange kind
Yeah.
of brownish.
The brown.
I painted all the blades silver.
Nice.
I actually I painted eyeballs in the turtles' eyes
Yeah,
because
because
they
it
used
was
to be like
though,
white.
They're all white. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the way the show looked. They had their eyes, but in all the series of toys until probably 1990, somewhere in the mid 90s, they created the cartoon versions of those same figures.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So well, I guess we've covered Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the franchise. I'd say pretty well. I feel pretty happy with our coverage of it.
Yeah, it's good
Yeah.
shit.
Good
Yep.
shit. All right. Well,
All right.
now you know what we think of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles franchise. Is there any other note there that you have to worth sharing, Matt?
Just a little side note. The late Sally Menke, who was the director of the Tarantino films, she actually was a co-editor for the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle film, which was kind of cool.
You mean the editor for the Tarantino films?
Yeah, Sally Menke.
Okay.
Yeah. She passed away about a couple years ago,
Yeah.
but yeah, she was a co-editor for that first film. I thought that was a nice touch.
That's
She
cool.
went from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction.
What a leap.
So,
Well,
so
for the record, yeah, I mean these are all pretty great in their own right. Though obviously some of them have a lot more strength to it. We definitely have to devote this episode as a tribute to Jim Henson for being willing to step into that dark place to give these characters the life they deserve to have. Because again, God, it's gorgeous the way those suits looked. That to me was the biggest disappointment, that they didn't trust that. Kind of like Lucas digitizing Yoda. I'm like, dude, nobody ever questioned that
Mhm.
puppet.
Right.
Same thing with the suits. Those suits looked so cool in the 90s. I really wish they persisted and even redesigned the suits. But
Just
still
kept
had
improving
characters
upon.
in there.
Yeah, no, Jim Henson's work in this movie. I'm glad that he finally kept himself from getting scared away because of the violence. Because I think his work is pivotal to the quality of this movie.
You kind of forget that they aren't just talking.
Right.
That you forget that somebody's controlling that, and that was the power of Jim Henson.
Yeah. Well,
Many
it's
of those
the same
80s,
thing would
90s
happen
movies.
with the Muppets. People would say that they were acting with the Muppets, and they referred to the Muppets as if they were people, because they just get so caught up in it. Like even between takes. So yeah, it's not surprising that his work would cause that again, especially with the quality of the Turtles.
Yeah.
So to put that out there, man, if somebody else is going to try and resurrect the Turtles in yet some other way, despite the series of movies that I'm sure they're going to make in the wake of this last Turtles film,
Yeah.
do it with suits, man, or do it in animated and kind of pay
Mhm.
tribute to everything. It's the wisest way to go.
Yeah, who knows? That's going to be a good decade to 15 years if we get another reboot of
Decade to 15, you're being generous. It'll be 3.
that. All right. Well, I'm Jazz from Bitter Balcony. I want to thank Matt for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for letting me come on board, guys.
All right, guys. Well, this is John as well. Cowabunga, dudes.
Cowabunga!
You just can't have the podcast without saying Cowabunga once, right? I mean,
I didn't say cowabunga. What did I say earlier?
it wouldn't be Turtles without it.
Bossa Nova!
Bossa Nova?
Chevy Nova?
That's a perfect note to end it on.
Pork rind?
I made a funny.
See you later, superfluous.
Yo, it's the Green Machine, gonna rock the town without being seen. Have you ever seen a turtle get down? Slamming and jamming to the new swing.